Hello, and welcome to Small Business Big Impact. I'm your host, J.Ann Guilfoy, CEO of Meridian Credit Union. Today's episode is about resilience, creativity, and what it really means to build something that lasts. Today's conversation is about resilience, reinvention, and what it means to keep building when the path forward isn't clear. We explore how setbacks can become turning points, why kindness is a leadership skill, and how strong foundations, both in business and in life, make growth possible over the long term. My guest is Sebastian Clovis, founder of Shoots and Leaves, a production company rooted in storytelling, craftsmanship, and growth. What I particularly appreciated about Sebastian was both his opportunistic approach to building a new career in media and construction after his football career ended. I have been fortunate to reap the benefits of saying yes to opportunities that challenge my capabilities in leadership. I think keeping options open and not being locked into a certain mindset help to make success possible. So today I'm joined by Sebastian Clovis. Sebastian's journey has taken him from playing professional football in the CFL to building and designing homes, to producing and hosting hit TV shows. Through his work, he champions diverse voices and uses his platform to inspire the next generation, especially in the skilled trades. So thanks, Sebastian, for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So I gave you a bit of an introduction, but I'd love to have you share in your own words what Shoots and Leaves actually does and means to you.
Shoots and Leaves is the name of my production company. It's a double entendre, actually, I guess, if you're asking what the name means. Really inspired by growth. Bamboo shoots shoot up out of the ground at a fast pace. They're very resilient. They're very strong. They very quickly grow leaves. And those leaves allow the bamboo to blow in the wind and dance very gracefully, quite drastically, but bamboo never breaks. It bends. And I was always very inspired by that. And so that was part of the meaning, was fast growth, resilience, strength. And then I think it's also a very generous material. There's so many things you can do with bamboo. People build scaffolding with their bamboo. They can frame houses with bamboo. They can weave it into hats, baskets, and mats and make utensils and plates and river rafts. There's pretty much nothing you can't do with bamboo. And it's so sustainable, very natural. It grows back quickly. It's very unique in that sense. And so, yeah, that was the first part of the meaning, Shoots and Leaves. And then, of course, the second part of the meaning is the fact that we set up beautiful scenes. We shoot it with our cameras, and then we clean up and we leave.
Fabulous. Yeah. So your career spanned professional football, trades, television, and now in entrepreneurship. Looking back on your career, what skills have carried you through?
There's a few things. One of the things that maybe has carried me through this journey is, I think, that idea that like someone somewhere has done something harder than what you're going through. So whatever you're going through, you can handle it. Like, that idea is what's driven me, I think, through my entire career so far. Because as soon as something becomes difficult, I'm just like, someone somewhere has done something harder than this. So giddy up. And so I think that kind of philosophy, that idea has carried me through a lot of things. And if you were to ask me, I know it's not a skill. Once I learned how to communicate with kindness, I really found that doors started to open up in a different way than ever before. People who I was working with, they would lean in. They were much more willing to work with me in far deeper ways than ever before. And so I really do feel like kind of communicating with kindness is one of the skills that maybe didn't come naturally, like no one didn't come naturally, but it's something I picked up along the way.
Yeah, that is just so inspiring, right? You have to treat other human beings the way you want to be treated. And by doing that, it actually gets you ahead faster. So I understand your football career ended with 2 serious knee injuries.
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about what happened, the end of a dream, the start of a new chapter, a bit of both. How did you make your way through that?
Tore my ACL, which is a 12-month recovery when I was my first year playing professional football. This was not calculated in the journey. And I'll never forget, I was lying in the medical unit and Mark Washington, who was defensive team captain at the time, he walked by and he asked me, he was pretty chipper. And he just kind of asked me like, hey, am I going to see you back out on the field? And I was like, I don't know. I've never been through something like this before. I said, I don't know. And he just stopped and he looked at me and he said, that's not an acceptable answer. He said, you do know. He said, whether you're coming back or not has already been decided. You already know. If you know that you're coming back, you're coming back. And if you don't know if you're coming back, you're not coming back. So am I going to see you out on the field again? And I was just like, you're going to see me on the field again. And I just kind of, from that point, sucked it up and got into rehab and made it happen. But, that next season, me and Mark, we won the Grey Cup together along with the BC Lions. We put that cup up in the air, and that dream that I always wanted kind of came through. It just went through a really kind of serious detour. In the end, it worked out in a wonderful way because I became just a stronger person, which was important because the very next season I tore my other ACL and I had to go through the whole thing again. That was really difficult. It did kind of cut that career short. But in hindsight, if my knees didn't go out, and I had stayed in the CFL for 4 or 5 more years or something, and I may not have ever had that opportunity that came along to me to get into TV. I may not have started that production company the way I did start it. I wouldn't have helped so many people that I've helped along the way, building their homes and like making people's dreams come true that way. And I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. So
yeah, I just finished a program called Positive Intelligence. And the one thing that they teach you is to find the gift in the thing that's not gone well, right? Like, what is the gift that comes out of that? How do you reframe it to look at it as like, that door closed, but there's something else waiting for me? So then maybe talk about how you got into TV. I am a big fan, by the way. I remember when you first started with your shows.
Once upon a time, I was sitting in the backyard with a friend of mine who was in the TV world, the basketball TV world, and really wanted to get their own show. He had a ton of ideas. He had the inspiration. He had the fire in his belly and really good at what he does. So we're sitting in the backyard and he's telling me about these basketball TV dreams. And it just so happened that I remembered in the moment, I know this director who was a big basketball fan that I had met 2 years before. And so I pulled out my phone right on the spot in the backyard and I texted this director. So the next day I went to go meet this director for lunch. And after that conversation was done and we were still having our lunch, so I asked him what he was doing. And he said he was directing a brand new renovation show with a brand new host. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And he asked me what I'm doing. I said, I'm renovating a kitchen around the corner here. He said, very cool. That was it. The next day, I'm on my renovation site. I feel myself installing a door lock or something, and I thought it was funny, and I sent it to him. And then lo and behold, later that day, I got a call from production, his production company, and they said, can we come film at your rental site? I said, sure. They came the next day, and they filmed me for 3 hours, and then 3 days after that, I was at HGTV headquarters talking with senior staff up over there. And then 4 days after that, they restarted that renovation show with me as a host. And
love it.
That's kind of how the whole thing got started. It really got started from me trying to help Akil. And I think that's like a really important thing because it's another one of those tenets in life that I've just learned that very often, like when you help people selflessly, it can like quietly open up doors for you that you don't expect. And so there's always a reason to be kind and there's always a reason to be a helping hand because it's a good thing to do, but also because there's a little bit of karmic justice in the world. And so I think out of that experience, it just made me perhaps believe in magic a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm a big believer in reciprocity and how that shows up in your life. It will show up in some other way. And so that's a great story. And I think most entrepreneurs are looking for that sort of opportunity to get their product and service out to somebody who might be able to help them. So the first season of Gut Job, which I remember watching, involved juggling tight budgets, big builds, high expectations. So what did that experience teach you about leading a team under pressure?
It was a very difficult show to produce. I think that we were really trying to break a paradigm with these renovation shows. We were really trying to like take a cut deeper with Gut Job and see some of the things, parts of the renovation that we weren't generally showing. We were trying to embed with the construction a little bit differently. I wanted to like really tell stories of these homeowners and tell stories of what it's like from an emotional standpoint to go through a renovation and the real decisions, the million decisions that have to be made. What I learned from doing it was, in regard to like leading a team, was to communicate very clearly. Very early in the process, I sat the whole team down and I was very clear. I want the show to look like this. I want it to sound like this. We're gonna do this and this differently, which is difficult because people who work in television, they've been doing these shows over and over again. It's like rote. They do the kind of the same thing again and again. And I'm asking you, like, don't do it that way. We're going to do it this way. And trust me, I put pressure on them that way, but I put way more pressure on myself. And so really what it came down to was like that first day rolled around and I just started running. And some people, they were chomping at the bit. They were like, oh my gosh, he's really doing it differently. And this was a lot of weekends and nights, and I didn't expect anybody to be there with me. But there were some people who showed up with me on those nights and on those weekends. And sometimes they weren't even being paid to be there. They just knew that I was in the trenches. And they were like, we're not going to let you be there by yourself. I found that to be so incredible because it like wasn't the money that was motivating them. It was the idea that like we're a team and we're doing something avant-garde and we're swinging for the fences and we really believe in what we're doing. We really believe what we're doing is good. That's the kind of stuff that legends are made of. And I think if you would talk to any of those people now, like if you get us all together, like the tears of laughter and the joy and like, yeah, it was really hard. We're going to talk about how hard it was, but we're going to talk about how hard it was with a smile, and it was worth it because you're a fan of Gut Job.
So you have been a big advocate for the trades industry and getting more people involved in trades. You're working with us on our Reframe program, mentoring young people. Can you share kind of how that came about and why you do that as part of your business?
Yeah, the Reframe program that we've developed is so important.
Yeah.
It's very different than what a lot of other people are doing. The reason why I'm inherently interested in it is because I'm a coach first and foremost. I coach the youth in football and I give them everything that I learned from playing football. People coached me when I was a kid and taught me everything they knew. And now I go back and I do the same thing in football. And it's the same thing with trades. Love the idea that I have this like skill and ability to build homes. It's really cool. It makes me feel powerful. I'm more proud of the fact that I'm like part of this legacy. I'm part of this legacy of builders and this legacy of craftspeople that build. And part of the responsibility of being in that legacy is giving it to the next generation and letting them be off to the races with everything that we've learned. That's why I've always been invested in coaching in general and passing on the legacy. So to speak about Reframe, like first of all, the name Reframe is kind of what we were talking about before. It's really about taking a problem and realizing that this problem is not the end, or it's not a dark spot. This is an opportunity for a creative solution, right? So we got to reframe whatever this problem is, reframe it in our minds, reframe our lives, and figure out how to grow from here, right? And utilizing like construction as a metaphor to reframe, build your own lives up and get into business. And a lot of the fundamentals that I teach, we have different modules in the Reframe program. So there's people who are hardcore teaching like the in the field construction stuff. And then I'll come in and I'll speak about a lot of the philosophy and how to go around, how to go about becoming a great tradesperson and a great person and a great business person. And then we have financial experts come in and explain like, here's how you handle your money. So it's like this comprehensive thing. But the more we've gone into this Reframe program, I've really just realized like it's setting people up for when people come out of this program, they're better at building. They're set up to build. But if they don't go into building, they're still set up to do anything else they want to do too, right? Because they have the financial confidence and they have this like blueprint that I've given them on how to work ethic through struggle, communicate with kindness, how to get a mentor, how to raise your value as a person, how to acquire more skills. So kind of like skill acquisition, like reframing your life, skill acquisition, financial confidence, all wrapped up with this, like, because it's like such a cool program. Like,
It is such a cool program. I dearly hope that we can scale it because I just think it's so needed. And I love the fact that many tradespeople are also entrepreneurs. And so if you could talk to all of the creatives out there, whether it's people who work with a trade or they're in creative, they're an artist or whatever, about building their business, what kind of advice would you give them?
in the Reframe program, I always talk about building plumb, level, and square. That's the foundation of building, in my opinion. You always have to build everything plumb, level, and square right from the beginning. And the reason why you have to do that is because it's going to make the finish so much easier. When you get 5 months down the road, if you realize that something is out by a couple of degrees or whatever it is, now the tiles look crazy, or now the finishes, it's much harder to make those finishes look perfect. It's way easier to make it plumb, level, and square right from the beginning. What I'm talking about there is setting up your foundation solidly, right? And even if the vision changes halfway through the build, that's okay. We can change the vision and we can build off of this strong, sturdy foundation. And so I think that also applies to business, which is like really setting up your business slow and steady from the beginning. And meaning, like, make sure that you understand what your strengths are. Make sure that you're setting up your books, your back end on your business, your communication, your emails, how you communicate with your clients, those type of protocols. Set up all that quiet stuff that's not the thing that your business in particular does. Set up the stuff that all businesses do that make them strong.
So as you think about the future, my last question is, so what are the stories you want to be telling the world in the next iteration of your rebranded organization, your whatever you're doing? What's the messaging you want to get out?
Everybody knows that there's a changing of the guard in the TV world. A lot of the old stable companies and the networks that we all knew are maybe fading away to some degree, or giving way to a more democratized media landscape where real people who are telling real stories in an authentic way are gaining more traction, way more traction than traditional media. Authenticity over polish is winning like big right now. And maybe that's in reaction to AI and everything. Like, we can enjoy AI, it's funny, but when you see somebody who like has bags under their eyes and is like a real person, you automatically have this, all of a sudden you're starting to have this like, oh, your heart swells because you're like, that's a real person. That person's really thinking in the moment and speaking, and like, what a human thing to do. So like, less polish is like really cool. And so what we're really excited about doing is producing renovation content that lives in multiple media spaces, that speaks to the new audience and gives a clearer line of sight into the fun, the beauty, the transformative experience that is renovation, and a cleaner, I suppose, palette for the viewers and our partners and brands that we work with to all be able to kind of integrate in a seamless way. So that's kind of where we're headed. Just being, I can't say that I can take the title as being the most authentic in the TV world, but I'm certainly up there as being one of the most authentic characters in the past 10 years in the renovation television space. And I'm definitely going to take that authenticity and carry it on into the new media spaces where the audience has shifted to and where the brands and partners have shifted to. And we're going to continue to speak from a place of kindness and authority.
I love it. We're in this weird time right now in the economy where tradespeople are having a difficult time finding jobs, but we still have a trade shortage. So how do you see continuing to kind of be an advocate for more tradespeople?
I'm going to continue helping people out because the housing stock in Toronto is 120 years old. There's a lot of these houses that still need a lot of help. And there's a lot of homes that have taken on renovations in the last 20 years that were, let's just say, like, the best materials weren't used. and they're in a little bit of distress now. And so there's a lot of work to do in the residential renovation side. There's a lot of homes that are needed. The construction scene is really changing. It's strange because there's a lot of construction jobs being lost because a lot of the big construction firms that have been doing condos and these giant buildings, these massive companies have taken these hits. These companies are over leveraged. The projects that they're taking on are not giving the return on investment that they originally were. And so a lot of those giant companies where a lot of people are working are having to lay off builders because they are companies, they are in trouble. But that doesn't change the housing stock.
No, and it's good for small entrepreneurs. To your point,
good,
right? It's a
really,
good thing.
Exactly, it's really good for. We're in the era of where we need small construction companies, way more small construction companies popping up that can handle all the houses in this neighborhood that I'm looking out the window right now. All these houses need work, and we need small companies that can handle all of these houses. The big giant companies that were doing those buildings, they may be in trouble, and I'm sure that they're going to figure out one way or another, and because they'll have to, and eventually they'll be rehiring. And so there is a shifting of the way that construction has been done. It's hard to understand because the numbers tell strange stories. The fact of the matter remains, as the government has said 100,000 times, we have a housing shortage. We need more people. And I know from being in the industry, there's a shortage of people who are building in these small companies. They're still having a hard time finding people to hire, bringing people in. It is hard work. It does take a lot. So maybe not everybody wants to get involved. It's easier to work for bigger companies where maybe there's less pressure on you. But, there's a beauty to building. Once people get into building, man, they fall in love with it. It's so rewarding to be able to take something from nothing to a house. And it's transformative. It's metamorphosis. It's an analogy for everything that I think is beautiful in this world of taking something that is tired and making it fresh. And so, yeah, we still need builders. We need small businesses.
I really enjoyed this conversation with Sebastian. His story is a great reminder that success isn't always a straight line, and that some of the most meaningful work comes from embracing change rather than resisting it. Whether it's through media, construction, or programs like Reframe, Sebastian is focused on creating opportunity and helping others build strong foundations of their own. Join us on this journey by subscribing to the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thanks for listening.